everyone, it's Taylor here. I'm going to share with you how I created these emoji-themed birthday cards and also show you some tips and tricks for using the latest addition in our Simple Strips collection. I'll be using the Caps Lock Yay die along with the Build an Emoji die set. I also have the Sweet Sprinkles background, and I'll be using the smaller of the two circles in the Circle Designer masking stencil set. I have a collection of mini ink cubes in a rainbow assortment of colors. I'll also be using the full-size confetti cake ink pad to do my blending and the Oreo ink pad for my image stamping. You can see I have my teal blender brush along with the new drip drops and the foam sticky strips for adhering my sentiments. The purpose of today's video is to show you how our Simple Strip stamps and dies all coordinate together to create really amazing sentiment options. I've pulled out my Simple Strips birthday along with the original Simple Strips die, and I'll be introducing a new Simple Strips backer die to create a 1/16 inch border for behind all of your original sentiment strips to draw that little bit of extra attention and dimension that you often need for a project. So as I said, I'll be using that Simple Strips birthday stamp. If you're not familiar, all of our Simple Strips work with this one die. They all have those same alignment squares along the side that line up with the alignment squares on the die, making them easy to trim. Then we have this backer die. So you can see here, if I hold the top sentiment up into the top bar, we have one backer for every single sentiment. So there are 18 backers and 18 original sentiment strips, meaning that each one has its own unique flag that fits just perfectly behind it. You'll also notice that it is a black die as compared to the silver die. That means it's one of our mixed media dies. It has a deeper cut edge and you can cut more than one layer of cardstock at one time. So here I'm showing you the Simple Strips birthday stamp. I've set that up in the MISTI with Sugar Cube cardstock, stamping that with my Oreo ink, and then aligning those 6 solid squares with the openings on the die and sending them through the machine. Now, because each of those flags has a specific backer to go with it, I want to make sure I number them before I pop them out of the die. So I've cut them, and then I'm using those cut lines to number each of the sentiments before I pop them out of the die. Now, with the backer, I'm going to do something similar. I've taped down the die and I'm writing the number inside. Now, you'll eventually adhere over the top of that number, so don't worry about that part. And now I can pick up my matches. I have number 13 and number 13, and I can just adhere those together. I like to use a liquid adhesive and my tweezers in order to get them just perfectly in place, and the liquid glue gives me a little bit of time to move it around if I need to. We also have one of these amazing backer dies for our mini strips collection. So now that I've given you my tips and tricks for that, I'm going to continue with the rest of the project using the smaller circle in the Masking Circles collection. I'm adhering my paper to the back of the stencil using the alignment guides to make sure it's centered perfectly left to right. I have moved it slightly up from center because I wanted to make sure I had enough space for my Yay die cut and my sentiment at the bottom. Then I can just blend each panel in a similar way until I've finished all 4. Next, I'll take the reverse of the stencil with Pixie Spray on the back and adhere it to my blended circle. I'm setting up that Sweet Sprinkles background over the top of my panel and inking it in a rainbow of colors using mini ink cubes. Then when I place that stamp down over my panel, it will be masked on the circle that I just applied. So you'll see the sprinkles around the circle, and the circle will remain just perfectly intact. I need to wash the circle each time to make sure that I don't get any of that excess ink on it, but then I can finish all of the 4 panels in a similar way. Now that those panels are complete, it's time to start building the emojis for the center of the circles. I have my Build an Emoji set. I did a lot of the die cutting off screen just because I didn't want to bore you with too much of it here, but I did cut those 4 yellow circles for the faces out of pineapple cardstock. And then I have poppy seed here for the mouths and eyes. I did the hats and other items off screen. The thing I love most about this Build an Emoji set are all of the different options you have. I chose to do 4 different happy faces for these birthday themed cards, but you could do so many different things. There is sad faces and crying faces, there are sick faces, and of course there's glasses and party hats and other accessories that you can put on the emojis. Now, after I've finished all 4 of them, I've put a little bit of foam adhesive on the back, and I'm just adhering them into the center of the blended circles that we created on that background. And then I'm going to go ahead and die cut my yay word. Now this is probably one of my most used dies in my collection. I hope you're not tired of seeing it yet because I think it just fits perfectly with a lot of the birthday cards that I like to make. And it goes great with those birthday sentiments. So I've cut them out of 4 different colors of cardstock to coordinate with the base of each hat. And I've created a template to make sure that I can get them adhered in just perfectly straight. Now my last step is to take those sentiments that I put on the backers and adhere them with my foam sticky strips to the bottom underneath the yay. So some of them say, yay, did somebody say cake? Yay, it's your birthday, etc., etc. I'm going to adhere those to black card bases, and then I have 4 cards to go ahead and mail to birthday friends and family members. I hope you learned something new from today's video, and I hope you're as excited about our new Simple Strips backer as I am. You can find all of these products right now at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks for tuning in.